Growing up, my life felt a bit like living in the shadow of a mystery I could never solve. It was just me and my mom, Margot, in our cozy but quiet house in the suburbs. My mother was a vibrant woman, dedicated to her job as a librarian, and to me, her only daughter. Yet, whenever I asked about my father, she changed the subject or distracted me with sweets, marshmallows, chocolates, candies, anything sweet to shift my focus. "What, Dad?" "Here. Have a bag of candies." It was always like that with Mom. "Have a bag of that, or keep this chocolates, or look, that marshmallow looks like Grandma Teresa." So instead of finding out anything about him, I just gained a lot of weight. From a young age, I developed a sense of something missing, not just a father, but the whole idea of a complete family. As I grew, my inquiries about my father were met with silence or sidestepping. Eventually, I learned to stop asking, but the void where he should have been grew larger with each passing year.
As the years passed, my mother seemed to notice my growing loneliness. She started dating, hoping to bring some stability and perhaps a father figure into my life. However, her relationships were fleeting. I witnessed a parade of men, each introduced with glowing praise, only to disappear within weeks or months. Each breakup was followed by nights of comfort eating and watching old movies. It became our ritual: ice cream, tears, and Titanic or The Notebook on repeat. Then came Ben. He was different from the others, older, with a calming presence that immediately filled our home with a sense of security I hadn't realized I was missing. Ben was a retired professor, a man of stories and wisdom, with an old-world charm that seemed to be from another era. He had a white beard and wore round spectacles that made him look like a character from a book. My mom introduced him shyly, a sparkle of hope in her eyes that I hadn't seen in years.
Ben didn't just step into the father role, he embraced it wholeheartedly. He attended my school events, helped me with homework, and most importantly, he was there consistently and unconditionally. One of my fondest memories was the day I got an A+ in math, a subject I struggled with. Ben wrote a poem praising my intelligence and determination. It was the first time someone celebrated my academic success in such a personalized way. Life with Ben felt complete. We had family dinners, weekend outings, and holidays filled with laughter and warmth. My mother seemed happier too, her smiles more genuine. For a few years, we were a family unit that I cherished deeply. However, the peace was disrupted when my mom started receiving late-night phone calls. She thought I didn't notice, but I did. I could hear her whispering in the bathroom, her voice a mixture of excitement and anxiety. When I confronted her, she brushed it off as nothing to worry about, but the secrecy only fueled my suspicions. One day, I discovered a love letter hidden in her room, signed by someone named Luke. The letter was romantic, filled with promises and longing. Confronting her led to a heated argument where truth spilled like broken pearls from a necklace. She confessed that Luke was my biological father, the man she had loved before everything fell apart. My world, already unsteady, began to crack. Determined to protect what I had with Ben, I sought out Luke to end whatever was reigniting between him and my mom. I found him living in a grand villa, filled with musical instruments and gold records on the walls. He was a retired rock star, whose life had been as chaotic as his music was loud. Luke was shocked to see me. His initial resistance melted away as we talked, and he shared his side of the story. He had made mistakes, many of them, but now wanted a chance to make things right. Despite my reservations, I couldn't help but feel a connection to him, an inexplicable pull that was more than just biology. Integrating Luke into our lives was far from smooth. Ben and Luke were like oil and water, each with their own vision of what a family should look like. They clashed over everything, each trying to mark his territory in my life. Their rivalry was exhausting, turning every family gathering into a battleground. On my birthday, what should have been a simple celebration escalated into a ridiculous competition. Luke invited his musician friends for a rock concert in our backyard, while Ben countered with a medieval-themed party, complete with knights and jesters. The absurdity of the situation would have been hilarious if it hadn't been so tragic. The tipping point came when Ben collapsed during one of their arguments. At the hospital, he confessed that he had a terminal heart condition. He had known for months, but kept it a secret, not wanting to burden us. His collapse was a wake-up call for everyone, especially Luke and my mom. The crisis brought us closer. Luke stepped up, taking care of Ben and making peace with the past. He apologized for his earlier behavior, and they found common ground in their mutual love and concern for me. Ben's illness, though a painful chapter, mended fences and reshaped our family into something new and resilient.
Title: The Hidden Truth. Growing up, I had an incredibly close relationship with my sister Rose. We were raised in a loving foster family after a troubled start in life. Our biological parents were drug addicts who often neglected us, leaving us at friends' houses for days while they partied. When my biological mother was pregnant with me, she continued her habits of smoking and drinking, but fortunately, I was born healthy. When I was a few months old, our parents left Rose and me at a shopping mall and never returned. We were discovered by an elderly couple who helped us contact the police. The authorities couldn't find our parents, and their last known residence looked uninhabitable. After spending some time in foster care, the kind couple who found us decided to adopt us. Now an adult, with Rose significantly older, I still live close to our foster parents, and Rose lives just a short drive away. I visit her multiple times a week, maintaining our strong bond. Recently curious about my heritage, I took a DNA test at a friend's suggestion since Rosa seldom spoke of our biological family. The DNA results were surprising. I learned I had significant Ashkenazi Jewish ancestry, and also discovered I had an aunt I never knew about. Eager for answers, I reached out to her, let's call her Janet, and we agreed to meet. During our meeting, I noticed we shared similar physical features, like our hair color and eyes. Curious about her family, I inquired about her siblings. She revealed that when she was young, her sister Rose got pregnant while intoxicated, gave birth, and ran away with her drug-addicted boyfriend shortly thereafter. Shocked by the story, I requested to see a photo of her sister. Janet took me to her parents' house where I saw the photo. Instantly, I recognized Rose. It turned out, Rose was my biological mother, not my sister. She had orchestrated our foster care and subsequent adoption to ensure I had a stable life, which she felt unable to provide due to her youth and circumstances. After all this, however, my heart felt heavy. I felt like I could burst at any moment. I went to my best friend's house, told him everything, and stayed there for a week. I told my parents and sister that I was at my friend's house because we were both enjoying a new game that we both liked, and I wasn't talking much to Rose. One day I decided to visit her unexpectedly. I took a picnic basket with me to surprise her and spend some time together. When she saw me and was happy, I asked her to sit down because we needed to talk. I started by saying that I knew she had a secret she had been hiding from me. Her face turned red, and she began to cry. She knew what I was talking about. I told her about the DNA test, about Janet, and everything I had shared with you guys in the previous post. When she calmed down a bit, she told me the truth. She explained how she had gotten drunk at a party and slept with a guy who was just into drugs. The guy didn't care about a future child and was like, "Whatever happens, happens." She continued to tell me that 10 years ago, her boyfriend had been stabbed in prison because he was involved in drug trafficking, assault, and armed robbery. She also told me how her mother had convinced her father to persuade her to give up the idea of keeping me. They fought with her continuously until I was born. When I was born, they immediately told her that she had brought shame on the family and that they would not help in raising me in any way. She explained that she learned from her friends and juggled between working and taking care of me. One day, after a huge fight, she told her parents that if they were not going to help financially or in any other way, she and I were better off without them. That night she escaped from her room, hitchhiked to a neighboring country, and by morning she was there. She took care of me for a few days in an old house where homeless people used to come and go. When I started crying at the mall, She also started crying, and a couple immediately came to our aid. She made up a story on the spot and created a fake identity. The police found out we were not in the system. We stayed in foster care for a year and a half, until the couple who helped us decided to adopt us so we wouldn't be separated. It took them a few months and a couple of lawyers, but they managed to adopt us both. She told me she knew that her parents were looking for her. She informed them through a letter that she was fine and taking care of herself. She told them she was never coming back and that they should stop looking. After some time, they stopped searching. After hearing this story, I told her that we missed a lot by not knowing she was my mother. I told her I understood that what she did was the right thing. I pulled out a baby picture from the picnic basket and some snacks for a late celebration, and we hugged for an hour or so, had a lot of fun, watched a movie, and then I went to my adoptive parents' house for dinner. I am glad she is my mother. For the first time in my life, I feel complete. I don't mind that she lied because she did it for the greater good. I can't imagine my life without her now.
Story 1.
The day I found red hair in the shower and my shampoo on the floor was strange, but it was just the beginning. At first, it was just these little things. A charger not mine, nail polish remover I didn't use. But I didn't say anything. I just kept looking and thinking. That evening when I walked into our bathroom and saw my shampoo on the floor, something felt very wrong. It's funny how such a small thing can unravel your whole world. I picked it up and several strands of red hair tumbled out onto the white tiles, a stark contrast to my blonde hair that has never needed a dye job. A chill ran down my spine. Standing there, more strange things came to mind. There was a phone charger on my side of the bed that wasn't mine. Mark, my boyfriend, always charged his phone in the kitchen, not in our bedroom. And then there was a bottle of nail polish remover on the counter. Earlier, Mark had casually asked, "Did you leave this out?" His voice didn't sound right, too careless. I hadn't touched that bottle in weeks. I chose not to confront Mark right away. Instead, I began to change the sheets on our bed, my hands shaking a bit as I did. Mark leaned against the doorway, watching me with a small smirk. "Looking for something?" He teased, trying to sound lighthearted, but his ease didn't meet mine. "No, just felt like cleaning up a bit," I said, my voice more steady than I actually felt. His presence was heavy, almost like he was challenging me to call him out, but I wasn't ready. I needed to be sure. The next clue was hard to ignore. Our phone holder, usually at the other end of the bed, was now right by the pillow. It seemed like someone was trying to tell me something, to show me that my safe place had been invaded. The next morning felt colder when Mark kissed me goodbye. I was left alone, troubled by thoughts. Then I remembered the small, motion-activated camera we had hidden among the books on our living room shelf. We had put it there because of some break-ins in our area. With a deep breath, I decided to check the footage, my heart beating fast. The screen lit up, and there they were, Mark and a woman with fiery red hair sitting too close on our sofa, laughing together. Their ease with each other, the way they touched, it wasn't casual. It felt like a deep cut, seeing them together like that. That evening, I couldn't hold back anymore. I showed Mark the video. His face turned white as he watched, his usual excuses falling silent. He stumbled over his words, trying to explain, to apologize. It meant nothing, he kept saying, but the hurt was too deep. But before I could say anything, the doorbell rang. I answered it, and there, standing at the door, was the red-haired woman. She looked as shocked to see me as I was to see her. "I'm so sorry," she said. "I didn't know he had a girlfriend. He told me he was single." Mark was right behind me, and he couldn't say anything. He just stood there. It turned out the red-haired woman thought she was helping by telling me the truth, even though it hurt. It was a mess. Now I was at a crossroads. Should I stay and try to rebuild what we had, or should I leave and start over by myself? It was a heavy decision, weighing on me. As I thought about what to do next, I felt a sense of clarity start to break through the confusion and hurt. This was my chance to choose a path that was right for me, to find a way to be happy and respected. Deciding to take some time for myself, I went to stay with a friend. Being away helped clear my mind. I realized how strong I was, how I deserved so much more than half-truths and broken trust. Whatever choice I made, I knew it was the beginning of a new chapter for me, one where I took control of my happiness and my future.
Story 2.
In the quiet suburb of Maplewood, where the trees whispered secrets and the streets held memories, I found myself engulfed in a storm of uncertainty. My name is your name, and my story is one of love, betrayal, and the relentless pursuit of truth. It began with subtle shifts in Emily's behavior, a missed call here, a whispered conversation there. She seemed distant, her smile forced, her laughter hollow. At first, I brushed aside my suspicions, attributing her demeanor to stress or fatigue, but as the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, I could no longer ignore the nagging feeling in my gut. Sign 1. Behavior and attitude. Emily's behavior became increasingly erratic, her moods unpredictable. She withdrew into herself, shutting me out with a wall of silence. I longed to break through, to understand what was troubling her, but she remained elusive, her secrets hidden behind a mask of indifference. Sign 2. Social circle. I noticed a change in Emily's social circle. New friends, late nights, whispered conversations. She spent more time with a coworker named Mark, a charming man whose presence seemed to cast a shadow over our relationship. I tried to dismiss my feelings of jealousy, but they lingered, a constant reminder of my own insecurities. Sign 3. Lack of emotional attachment. Our once close bond had begun to unravel, leaving me adrift in a sea of uncertainty. Emily seemed distant, her affections withheld. I yearned for the connection we had shared, but it seemed to slip further from my grasp with each passing day. Sign 4. Physical indicators. I couldn't ignore the changes in Emily's appearance, the new haircut, the stylish clothes. I wondered if she was trying to impress someone, if there was another man who had captured her attention. Driven by my suspicions, I embarked on a journey to uncover the truth, each step fraught with uncertainty and danger. I checked Emily's phone, hoping to find evidence of infidelity that would confirm my fears. But each search turned up nothing, leaving me more confused and frustrated than before. Desperate for answers, I confronted Emily, my heart pounding with fear. I begged her to tell me what was going on, to lay bare the secrets that had come between us. But Emily remained silent, her eyes filled with sorrow as she turned away, unable to face the truth. As the truth slowly emerged, I felt a wave of sadness wash over me. The woman I loved had betrayed me, her actions casting a shadow over our once happy life together. But amidst the pain, I found a glimmer of hope. The hope that one day I would find the strength to forgive, to let go of the doubts that had plagued me, and to embrace the uncertainty of the future with open arms. As I stood there, grappling with the weight of betrayal and heartache, I realized that forgiveness was not a destination, but a journey. It was a choice I had to make every day, a commitment to release the bitterness and resentment that threatened to consume me. And so, with a heavy heart and tears streaming down my cheeks, I made a vow to myself to rise above the pain, to find healing in forgiveness, and to rebuild my life from the ashes of despair. In the days that followed, I immersed myself in work, finding solace in the familiar rhythm of routine. But no matter how busy I kept myself, Emily's betrayal lingered in the back of my mind, a constant reminder of the shattered dreams and broken promises that had once defined our marriage. Yet, amidst the darkness, a flicker of hope began to emerge, a whisper of possibility that whispered of new beginnings and second chances. I realized that forgiveness was not about excusing the wrongs done to me, but about freeing myself from the chains of anger and resentment that bound me to the past. And so, with each passing day, I took small steps towards healing, reaching out to friends for support, seeking guidance from a therapist, and finding solace in the beauty of nature. I allowed myself to grieve for the loss of the life I had once known, but I also dared to dream of a future filled with love and possibility. As time went on, the wounds began to heal, leaving behind scars that served as a reminder of the strength and resilience that lay within me. I learned to let go of the doubts that had plagued me, to trust in the power of forgiveness to set me free. And though the road ahead was uncertain, I walked it with courage and determination, knowing that with each step I was moving closer to the light. For in the end, I realized that forgiveness was not just a gift I gave to Emily, but a gift I gave to myself, a gift of peace, of healing, and of redemption.
Story 3.
It was a chilly November evening in Cleveland, Ohio. As I hurried down the busy street toward the bus stop, eager to escape the biting wind. My day had been long and tedious, filled with the usual stresses of my office job, and all I wanted was to get home, have a warm meal, and curl up with a good book. Little did I know my mundane day was about to take an unexpected turn. As I approached the bus stop, I noticed a small, shivering figure huddled on the bench. It was a young boy, no more than 10 years old, clutching a school bag to his chest, as if it could shield him from the cold. His coat was noticeably thin and worn, hardly enough to fend off the early winter chill. Curiosity and concern washed over me. It wasn't normal to see a child alone at this hour, especially not one so poorly dressed for the weather. I took a seat beside him, offering a smile. "Hey there, are you okay?" I asked gently. The boy looked up, his eyes wide and uncertain. "I'm waiting for the bus to take me home," he replied, his voice small. "But I think I missed it." "What's your name?" I continued, trying to keep him talking. "Danny," he answered. "Well, Danny, where do you live? Maybe I can help you get home." He hesitated, then whispered, "I'm not sure. My mom usually picks me up, but she couldn't today. She gave me bus money, but I must have taken the wrong one earlier." My heart sank. The thought of this young boy lost and alone as darkness fell stirred a protective instinct in me. I checked the time on my phone. The next bus wouldn't arrive for another half hour. Without a second thought, I took off my jacket and wrapped it around his shoulders. His grateful smile warmed me more than the jacket ever could. "Let's wait for the bus together," I suggested. "Then we can make sure you get home safe." As we waited, Danny told me about his school and his favorite books. He loved to read, he said, especially stories about adventures and faraway lands. I found myself smiling, his enthusiasm infectious. Finally, the bus arrived. We boarded together, and I asked the driver if he could alert us when we reached the address Danny gave. The bus was warm, a welcome relief from the biting wind outside, and I watched as Danny's anxious expression slowly relaxed. The bus ride was longer than I expected, weaving through neighborhoods I rarely visited. When we finally reached his stop, I followed Danny down the street to a modest house, its windows glowing softly in the darkness. Danny rang the doorbell, and after a moment, a woman appeared. Her expression, etched with worry, melted into relief when she saw Danny. She enveloped him in a tight embrace, then looked up at me, her eyes glistening with tears. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I got held up at work and my phone died. I've been so worried." "It's no problem at all," I replied, feeling a swell of relief myself. "I'm just glad Danny is home safe." She invited me in for a cup of coffee, but I declined, knowing my own family would be waiting. As I turned to leave, Danny tugged on my sleeve. "Thank you for the jacket," he said, holding it out to me, but I shook my head. "Keep it," I told him. "It suits you better anyway." His smile in response was all the thanks I needed. I walked back to the bus stop under the clear, starry sky, my heart lighter than it had been all day. That encounter with Danny stayed with me. It was a simple act, helping a lost boy find his way home, but it reminded me of the goodness that can be found in unexpected places. In a world that often seemed filled with bad news and cynicism, it was a beacon of hope, a reminder that kindness can make a difference. I never saw Danny again, but I often thought of him. especially on chilly evenings as I wrapped my new jacket a little tighter around me. I hoped he was somewhere out there reading his favorite books and going on adventures, perhaps even sharing his own tale of a cold night and a stranger who helped him find his way home. As for me, I learned something important that night. Our smallest actions can have impacts far beyond what we might imagine. In reaching out to help someone else, we might just find that we are the ones being saved, reminded of our shared humanity and the simple acts of kindness that connect us all. And isn't that what life's really about? Sharing those moments, helping each other, and finding a little warmth on a cold night. At least that's the story I like to tell now, whenever someone asks about the jacket I gave away to a boy named Dan.